God can't exist. Here's why. Part 1. So most theistic versions of God are ones that are defined to be all good, all loving, morally perfect, or all good-natured. So the next question to ask is, if this is the case, why is there evil in the world? Why does it make sense for there to be evil if God, being all good, doesn't have the capacity to produce or generate something evil? How would it be that evil exists? And if God really is good, why doesn't he prevent evil or stop it from happening? And the typical theist response is, we have free will. This is a way of excusing the fact that there's evil, because humans, with our free will, we choose to do evil or wrong, and hence it will exist in the world around us. But free will doesn't actually solve the problem of evil at all. It just exacerbates it, if anything. And for two main reasons. Firstly, God could have eliminated evil from the range of choices that we have. In other words, instead of choosing between good and bad, God could have made it so that we only can choose between goods, or good actions and neutral actions, or amoral actions. And it seems like there's nothing wrong with thinking this, because, hey, we already have limited free will. If we have free will, it's still very limited, right? I can't just choose to grow wings and fly to the moon, right? There's a physical limit to our free will. So all those possible choices that we could have had if our physiology was different, the theist kind of just glosses over those things and says, yeah, that doesn't matter. Why is there no issue for those possible choices? But when it comes to evil, oh, evil's necessary. Why? Why is evil a necessary choice? So it's obvious that the theist is making an excuse when it comes to evil. They're saying, well, evil has to be a choice. So I don't see why evil is somehow a necessary choice that we had to have with our free will. I don't see why it's tethered to it. But even more damaging is that free will does not necessitate evil. For example, I could use my free will, but never do evil with it. I can choose to always do the right thing. And the same with you, anybody, right? You can do this for everybody on the planet. Everybody in the world could have chosen to do good instead of the evil action. So it seems that it's logically possible that there could have been a world that God made where everybody has free will, but they always choose the right option with their freedom. They always choose the right good option. Seems logically valid for this kind of world to exist. If not, where's the contradiction? If not, why is it logically invalid for this to be the case? In fact, the theist already agrees with this, because if they think God has free will, well, God has free will and never chooses wrong. So clearly it's possible under their own paradigm for there to be a world where an agent has free will but never chooses the wrong actions. So why doesn't God ever do wrong with his free will? Because he's good-natured, right? So why couldn't God give us a good nature from the get-go such that we never choose evil? It seems to me that either God designed us with an evil nature, or God doesn't exist. Furthermore, how about all the gratuitous evils that occur? How about, for example, a baby with a debilitating genetic condition, which disables them for the rest of their lives? How did that baby choose to be in that predicament? Where is this? All these things like tsunamis, volcanoes, right? All these natural disasters that we can take a look at and go, who's causing these things to happen? Also, for example, animal suffering. Why is there so much inherent evil in nature itself? Why is there so much inherent suffering in nature? Why do animals suffer if they're not moral agents? To most theists, animals don't have souls. Animals are not moral agents. They're just animals that do things on instincts, right? So if that's the case, then why is there so much animal suffering, right? Or why in the wild, right, without any human intervention, why is there so much inherent evil in the wild? Why would God make a world with so much unnecessary suffering, so much unjustified suffering? Why? And the next biggest response that theists give me is, well, God has a reason. Right? There's a reason. We don't know God, we don't know his mind, we don't know what he's thinking of. Perhaps he has a greater plan for us. And there's a big plan for all this. And the reason why all this bad happens is because he wants us to see the bigger good picture. Right? There's a bigger plan out for us. Without evil, you can't know good. Even though God knows good without being evil or experiencing evil. Anyway, God has a reason, right? They're resorting to skeptical theism. Well, I don't know why God is doing this, but he has a reason. He must have a reason. So does that mean God has a reason for people being murdered? Does God have a reason for people getting assaulted sexually? Right? It's like, if you're going to say that everything that happens has a reason for it, or God has a reason for everything that happens. Now what the theist has done is now conceded that they don't have objectivity in their morality. Now everything becomes permissible. Every assault, every murder, right? Every violent act, every evil act, every sin becomes permissible because, well, it's all part of God's plan. Everything is part of God's plan. Everything's permissible. There's no difference between good and evil anymore, right? It becomes fuzzy. Everything's okay because God allows it. It's permissible. They basically opened Pandora's box where every action is needed for God to actualize his better plan. And now you no longer know, as a theist, what is objectively good or objectively bad. It's all just okay. And this undermines their entire moral framework. And that's a big problem for them. Another aspect of this is, if God is omnipotent and omnibenevolent, all good, it seems that God would always get what he wants or desires, right? If God has a desire, he will always achieve that desire. He'll always get what he wants. In other words, he can't fail when it comes to getting what he wants. So the next premise would be, God desires all people to go to heaven. I think that's reasonable. God wants everybody to get to heaven. The next premise is not everybody gets to heaven, right? Because not everybody gets to heaven. I think that most theists will agree with this premise, that not every person will get to heaven. If everybody is not in heaven, then your God failed at actualizing his desire, which means he's not omnipotent. Or if God doesn't want us to get to heaven, then your God's evil or doesn't exist, right? So this is one of the logical problems of evil here.